here's to the crazy ones. The misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Hey friends, it's Marc Mandel again. Welcome back to episode number 4 of Customer Experience Changemakers. It's my latest show and I'm thrilled that you're here with me. Today is going to be a pretty big conversation and I'm excited to have you here. We're going to be talking with a new business partner and a new recent friend of mine, Justin Custer, in just a few minutes about a pretty hot topic. But we're going to get into that topic around AI and how to use AI with analytics in the call center and in service operations in just a little bit. But before I do, I wanted to kind of introduce this show to you for those of you listening in today who might not know me or this Changemakers show. So if you've not heard the show before, CX Changemakers for me is a show about innovation. It's a show about new ideas. It's a show about being brave. It's a show about people who are willing to kind of pave their own road in the world of customer experience. You know, I'll just say it how it is. It could be really easy if you wanted to start a business and just say, hey, I want to just go find a big company that's successful in the space and basically copy them and make my own thing maybe just cheaper. So like, let's go knock off Qualtrics or knock off Medallia or knock off Genesys or Five9 or one of these other companies. But the people on this show are not that. The people who I love to bring onto this show are the people like in that Apple ad, the people who said, I think I can change the world. And they're the ones brave enough to stick their necks out and try. And that's why I call the show CX Changemakers, because I have this opportunity to meet some amazing people who are out there taking those risks, paving their own roads, and frankly, making a difference in the customer experience ecosystem. And we're going to talk to a gentleman, again, Justin Custer, in just a couple of minutes, who's one of those guys who I believe deeply has quite a story that you need to hear. But before Justin and I get too into that conversation, I wanted to cover just some quick housekeeping things. Firstly, I wanted to talk about something that I love doing. I'm a big reader. I'm a voracious reader, especially around topics of customer experience work. And every now and again, I come across a new book that either just comes onto my radar screen or maybe it just got published. And I like sharing that book with you. And then we'll figure out a way, if you're interested in getting a copy, if all you have to do is message me over in the comment screen on the side here. Or if you're listening in on LinkedIn, or if you're listening in on YouTube, in the comments section of those particular platforms, and just say, get me a copy of this book and I'll make sure you get it. And the book I want to talk about today is a brand new book that just literally came out, I think it's yesterday. It's called The Psychology of CX 101 by a friend of the show. His name is Marc Levy. And I don't know if you know Marc or not, but Marc is the head of customer experience for a company called Prettier Communications. And he has such a deep expertise and he's so passionate about customer experience work. And he took the time to take some of his own experiences and assembling them into this new book. And he's asked me to not just talk about this, but I said to him, I would like to buy a bunch of copies of this book from you, Marc, and give them out to readers of this show. Let me tell you for a minute what I think makes this book special. You know, there's so many books out there and ways we could learn about new techniques, we'll call it, techniques of CX, whether that be strategy ideas, whether that be technology ideas. But what Marc talks about in this book is a little bit different. He talks about the deep psychology and specifically the behavioral psychology, behavioral economics, in fact, of CX, and how do we really get into our customers' heads in a way that really helps us not just to deeply understand them, but to help actually change an outcome. And let me give you an example of what I mean by changing an outcome. I don't know if you know a gentleman named Daniel Kahneman. I don't mean personally, but at least by reputation. He won a Nobel Prize for something called the peak end rule. And I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but if you haven't, it just takes 2 seconds to explain. Kahneman in his research said people, generally speaking, in any experience remember a grand total of 2 things: the peak of the experience, the high or the low, and the end. Everything else sort of becomes a grayed out blur in people's memories. And what he said was, if you really want to improve the experience, it's really probably the easiest thing you can do is just to focus in on the end. Make that last moment memorable and positive. And for me, I've been going with my wife, Lisa, to Disney World every few weekends lately. We've got one of those annual passes to fly down. And I can tell you that, no, they intentionally put Mickey Mouse right inside the exit door of the Magic Kingdom to give your child a hug goodbye before you leave for the parking lot. And that hug goodbye between Mickey and your kid becomes that lasting memory of going to Disney. And it's just such a remarkably powerful outcome, because then that's all you talk about. And you've suddenly forgotten how long the lines were to get into the rides. You've forgotten the fact that you bought a hamburger and it cost $38. Right? All you remember was Mickey hugged the kid goodbye, and it was pretty magical. And if you want to find out more about this type of thing, think about the psychology of CX and what Marc wrote about in his book. As I said, just ping me for a copy. It's brand new. It's on Amazon. Either I'll get you a copy myself, or I'll send you a code where you could just download if you're on a Kindle or whatever your copy you want, and you'll get it. It's a terrific book. I read it recently, and I can't endorse it highly enough. Now, let's change gears for a minute. What I really want to talk about while we're here is this topic of AI. And, we can't have a conversation these days in business without talking about AI. AI is every place, whether that be in our marketing work, in our sales work, in our customer support work. Think about almost the entirety of the customer's journey with almost any company. And AI is every place. And the question remains, or the debate remains, at what point does AI pose an opportunity to start to downscale our headcount? Or to what point is AI really designed to take the headcount that we have and just make them really great at their jobs? And you think about the way I summarize this, one side of the argument is about efficiencies, right? Driving efficiencies. But you and I know that at least as important as being efficient, and maybe even more so, is the idea of creating great customer experiences. And to what extent do efficiencies cause trade-offs for strong customer experience outcomes? Sure, you might save some money by deploying AI in a call center to do a certain customer interaction, by having to reduce maybe your level 1 service technicians, whatever it might be. But at what point does that jeopardize the experience? And is that a good, prudent decision to make? In my opinion, I would like to see AI as an enabler, and AI as an amplifier, and AI as an analyzer, and AI as an empowerer, more so than a replacer. I think if we have a good, strong organization around us who are already competent and good at their jobs, I believe very strongly that AI can make a good employee a great employee. And at the same time, if you have an employee who's a little bit on the weaker side, or a little bit more of the inexperienced side, it could level them up too to be just as good as your best employees. So it's sort of like a level upper, more so than it is a replacer. In my opinion, at least. I'd love to hear your opinions about that. If you feel differently, or if you have prior experiences with other ways of thinking about it, Tell me I'm wrong. Call me out in the comments on the chat on the side and say, hey, Mark, I think you're full of it because we could cut our headcount 20% with AI, and I want to hear about that. But all that said, there's one area in AI that I've been in and around for a long time, and that's using AI to really empower us to understand more deeply, to understand what's going on in the myriad of customer engagements that we're having. Think about even a typical frontline service call center team. They could have thousands, if not tens of thousands, of conversations each and every day with customers. And those conversations are full of gold nuggets of information. But it's also typically really hard, frankly, to find those nuggets and to pull them out and learn from them. Now, there's been an attempt over the years, this is not a new idea, to use AI to analyze all of our customer conversations. I don't care if you're putting in transcripts. I don't care if we're figuring out ways to feed in call recordings, email, notes, whatever it might be. Think about any of our text interactions or our spoken interactions. If we can start to data mine those interactions in an accurate and actionable way, we can learn a ton from our customers. Now, that idea is not new. That idea probably goes back. I remember the first time, I was an early employee going on 15, 16 years ago now, probably more than 16 years ago, at a company you may know that used to be called Clarabridge. I was like employee number 7 or something in that company. So it goes back a long while ago. But the gentleman who's going to be popping in here in a second, Justin, we're going to talk about something that's a little bit of a departure from that. And what makes Justin's business different, and we're going to talk a lot about this, is this fact that he figured out ways that AI, in a modern sense, could take the complexity out of those analytics. There's always been analytics. The question is, how accessible are they, using an Apple terminology, how accessible are they to mere mortals without being a data scientist, without being a kind of a Python coder, without being something? Just if you have the ability to take that data and mine it for real actionable intelligence quickly and easily with like 3 clicks of the mouse. So Justin is going to be my guest today. Let's take a moment to bring Justin on. I want to have him introduce himself to you. And then Justin and I are going to spend probably 20, 30 minutes just having a good conversation about this topic, because I really want you, as my friends listening in, to get an understanding of what Justin's business is about, because I think he's one of these guys that's going to be seen when history is recorded here as being one of those real change maker guys, those guys that are putting out there something better and materially different than the other folks. So with that said, Justin, I want to bring you on and say, hey, thanks for being here.
Marc, what an intro. Thanks for having me.
You as I was saying to you before we kick this thing off, you look so incredibly, professional compared to me in a long sleeve t-shirt here today. But I can tell you in certain that I operate best when I'm in my most comfortable state. And for this is my most comfortable state. So I'm hoping it makes my head work in my best possible way. Justin, thank you. What I'd love to do is, you and I met not that long ago. You and I met only 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we've had a bunch of interactions since meeting. And it dawns on me that while I think I have a pretty good understanding of what you're up to and kind of who's Justin and kind of what lane are you in this world of customer experience work, because the words, I could say this, customer experience as a term means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And what I'm curious about, can you take just a few minutes and take my friends and me through just kind of the who's Justin story and kind of give me a sense on the lane that you're sitting in and how you see your business and where you're trying to take it?
Yeah. The who's Justin story, I think, to give you the business focused component of who's Justin, I started my career with Accenture, big global consulting firm. And I worked with them for about 8 years. My primary focus was really designing and implementing customer service solutions. I got to do that for the biggest companies in the world. I got to work in 12 different countries.
Wow.
Incredible opportunity for me to learn the way that the world works, the way that business works. And from that, I got to kind of develop a deep understanding of the challenges that big Fortune 500 clients need when it comes to support and customer support and contact centers, right? The whole people, process, and tools behind it, and what a company like Accenture was able to bring to the table. I loved your intro video there with the Changemakers and the ones that, don't stand for the status quo. And that's me, right? I was never, I think, meant to have a long-term career in a structured company like Accenture. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own company. But the impetus for it really came from my time at Accenture, understanding what did clients need, what could Accenture provide, and what were the gaps. And so we started this company now called CXConnectAI. And the challenge that we wanted to help our clients solve was around multilingual support. And so they're big contact centers. They need to provide support to customers speaking a bunch of different languages. They need a solution that will integrate with their existing tech stack to make that agent experience viable. And so we, over the past 10 years, have been building solutions and serving that industry. And a big part of what that is translating customer transcripts. And so we have that data, right? That data is in our system. Today, we primarily serve Fortune 500 companies. And we are now in the middle of launching a new product. And so what we've gotten to know from our clients over the past is, hey, we love the help that you're providing us in optimizing our multilingual support operations. But wow, it'd be really great if we could get a deeper understanding into what's happening within our transcripts. And so companies like that today, right, they focus on key performance indicators, KPIs, that are usually revolved around something you can quantify. Average handle time, wait time, right? They do their best to try and figure out first call resolution, although, the data that they have access to doesn't necessarily make that easy. But none of that really gets to the root of the problems that their customers are coming to them with. And I think, as you described in the intro, right, this unstructured data that customers are sharing with you. And so we're now launching this new product to help our clients more easily access the unstructured data within customer transcripts.
Interesting. You were talking a second ago, and you kind of brought back a moment of kind of personal PTSD for me, where I was thinking back, you were talking about different ways these kind of service operations and contact center teams manage their businesses. And one of them, I'm not going to name names because I'm going to be a little bit mean about it. But there was a large direct-to-consumer company that I did some work with that sold flowers all over the United States. They were a large national floral company. And they did a lot of their business initially over the phone. In fact, their company, I could say this, their company's name was their phone number. And that said that they became a website much later on.
Probably a very successful company.
They were hugely successful. But the reality is the gentleman who was running the contact center, I had a chance to meet with him, and he had about an 800 or 900 seat contact center in the
pretty sizable to support flower orders.
Yeah, especially around, not just, Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, but just generally. And I asked how he gets compensated and how he gets bonused. And he said, it all comes down to queue time and handle time. He goes, my boss wants people off this phone quickly. And so he says, in fact, watch this. And he typed something. We were in the call center at the time at his desk. And they had, if you could picture this, like what looks like a sports stadium scoreboard up on the wall that literally had all of the call queues and how many people were waiting on hold.
Yep. Seen those before.
Right, and what the average metrics are for each queue. He typed something on his computer on his desk, and all those call queues or those hold queues went to zero. And I said, what did you just do? He said, I just hung up on 1,100 people. I said, why? And he said, well, don't worry, first of all, they'll call back. And I said, oh, great. And then he said, because by having the way my system's set up here, by flushing these call queues, the handle time resets to 0 when they call back.
Hey,
So,
these are the metrics on which you're getting, benchmarked against. Optimized for that, I guess.
and I said, how about the experience? She goes, what do you mean? I said, you're making the customer call back, you're making them do all of the work. And what happens if they get annoyed so much that they don't call back? I said, would you be willing? And the relationship with them became, would they be willing to recast their compensation and their performance metrics around the customer and take on more of like kind of an external, outside in point of view about that experience, as opposed to just how efficient was he? Like, as opposed to, well, we could take a call in 3 minutes and 9 seconds. What if you could take a call longer and slower, but it was a better call? Right?
Well, then how do you define a better call, and how do you measure it?
Exactly. And that was something that was outside of his grasp. He had no technique at the time, and his volume was so high that he couldn't, if your volume's small, when you're talking about transcripts and learning from these calls, when the volume's small, you could literally just print out a bunch of them and read them. But when you're talking about potentially 10 or 20,000 meaningful calls a day, 7 days a week, you can't. There needs to be some level of automation to learn from it, and they didn't have that back in those days. And this was a while ago. And one of the things that I'm intrigued by, Justin, in your business, is you're going to customers today and in the future more so to say, you have all these this interaction data that you're compiling in these systems and databases and contact center platforms, that if you can suck out that data, you can make it incredibly easy to learn from it. Right? And to understand not just things like trends, not just the operational stuff, not just like, well, our average handle time is 3 minutes and 19 seconds, and not just even things like CSAT, but what the heck are they talking about? And I remember, I had a client that was a health insurance company, and their whole mission that they brought me in for, and I was puzzled by this, was find out why they're calling us and make them stop. Right?
It sounds very simple, right? Not necessarily easy, but simple.
I think guys like you have a story around that. And I think that becomes kind of, to me, the light bulb that kind of is behind the CXConnectAI business is, let's take something that, look, let's just be frank, just between us and our friends listening in. The idea of analyzing interactions for content is not brand new here in September 2025.
No. Excel and spreadsheets have been around for a long time.
Yes. But what you're doing is you've figured out a way, you've worked out a way with your team to really thoughtfully harness the power of these AI large language models to deliver on the promise of AI, to take that, grunt work of analyzing a lot of material that's hard to get your arms around and making it so it's literally A, fairly bulletproof, I would say, and B, super easy. Is that fair?
It is fair. And the easy part is what it really comes down to, right? So with this new product, we're calling it AI Insights and Talk with Your Data. We're trying to solve 3 problems for our clients, right? Number 1, our clients really struggle to even get to the data that they want to analyze.
Yeah.
If they can, right, figure out how to get through the CRM jungle that they're working with to access the data, it then becomes really difficult to put that data into a format where you can use it to make a decision. So that's kind of problem number 2. Problem number 3 is there's so much data, so many variables that go into making a change as a human. Like, where do you start, right?
Yep.
If you say, hey, we want to improve our CSAT scores for this product, well, there are 100 variables that go into that, and a new set of variables that are going to contribute to that in the next week that don't today. So those are the 3 kind of areas that we're focused on and helping our clients solve. Let me just give you an example that I think was pretty poignant. We're working with one of the top 10 airlines, And in a recent discussion I was on with their global head of Salesforce and some folks on his team. So Salesforce, right? That's where all the data exists. And then there were some of their operations team that oversee their contact center operations. And I just sort of said, hey, head of Salesforce for this global airline, you have a big team, you have really sophisticated tech stack. How much effort would it take for you to pull a report that says, how many baggage issues did we have in the past 30 days at airports in Germany? Like, that's a pretty reasonable question. And his response was, impossible, can't be done. Right? His response wasn't, oh, hey, I could take a team of 2 people and we can run some data analysis on it. We can get that in, maybe 2 weeks. His response was, impossible, can't be done.
Yep.
And so that actually made the next part of our demo wonderful, because I was able to show him in real time how we could just use natural language and say, ask that question. Hey, how many baggage related issues did we have at airports in Germany in the past 30 days? And 12 seconds later, right, we were able to get to the answer to that question. So the delight, it was really cool. The delight that you got to see from the folks that were, on their operations team was pretty remarkable.
I could imagine that was like a holy crap moment.
It is that type of moment. But then there's this other component of the moment that I think is really interesting. And what our solution enables you to do is you can talk or type to your data, and you can ask it any question you want, right? And we have built LLMs to go and query your data to help you get to that answer. But one of the things that we kind of run into is people don't really know what types of questions to ask, right? They sort of default to what they're used to, which is like, what was my volume? What was my handle time? What was my wait time? What was first call resolution? And in reality, you kind of started the conversation with AI and how is AI going to change the contact centers? And one of the things that I see is that when you can actually access the unstructured data that your customers are sharing with you, right? And this can be across any channel, email, chat, WhatsApp, voice. It can be across any language, right? And you can actually just start to engage that data. There is so much more information about your business in those customer transcripts. I think you called it a gold mine.
Yep.
That you can start to uncover. And so I see, in the context of AI insights, this isn't going to replace people. It's going to supercharge people. And you're going to now start to know and understand more about your business than you ever imagined. But that kind of comes with a learning curve. Like, you have to figure out, wait a minute, I can just ask my data anything? Yes, you can. Like, maybe another example that I think is going to be particularly valuable for e-commerce companies. You're launching a new product. You can come into our platform and say, hey, create a bar chart showing the number of times per hour that this new product is mentioned by our customers. And add a line showing me the average customer sentiment for that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We can then, in real time, every hour across every channel that's being supported in every language, show you that data. And that chart will automatically update as new conversations happen. But that's the type of thing that, no one in the market is out there looking for this solution because they don't know it exists. And so when you introduce them, there is the learning curve of figuring out, like, wait a minute, I can do anything? Like, what should I do? Where should I start? So you kind of get to go down the rabbit hole.
Do you find that people, when they're interacting that way with their data, need to be guided a little bit? Or let me rephrase that. I have found where, to your point, people don't know what to ask because they don't know what's possible. And sometimes I've seen where people want to be almost like queued up with like pre-structured questions and put them like literally on the screen so that you can go, oh yeah, I want to ask question number 4, as opposed to just being really free form in your thinking. What's your thinking about that?
Yep. People absolutely need to be guided with starters. And so one of the things, right, when we launched the first iteration of this new product, we had one dashboard, right? And so you can talk to your data, you can have it create charts, you can add those charts to your dashboard. And what we realized is that actually there's so much like disparate information that you might want to understand about your data. You're going to need to create multiple dashboards. And so we had to kind of go down that path of saying, hey, here's your agent performance dashboard, right? Here's your customer sentiment and feedback dashboard. Here's your product dashboard. Here's your fraud detection dashboard, right? And so you can open up any one of those dashboards, and then yes, we do have some call it primer prompts that you can actually just click on, and you can say, hey, what are the 7 products with the highest level of customer effort, right? As an example. And even that question, right? If you were to try and get to that answer through traditional, call it reporting methods, like it's not even an option. Wait a minute, like customer effort, like how would you even handle that? Well, how would you even measure that?
Yeah.
You got to jump through a lot of hoops, but we've figured that one out.
What's your thinking, Justin, about the non-analytical user, the business guy, who has a day job in a company, whose job it is sales leadership role or sales role or a marketing role or a support role, who needs quick answers to questions because frankly his boss is hammering them for those questions, right? And is he going to need to go to read dashboards? Is he going to need to go study charts to answer? Is he going to be able to just to literally take like the boss's question out of his Slack channel and just kind of paste it into your platform and kind of get an answer, ask a direct question, get a direct answer, and then go back and tell the boss, here's what you need to know?
Yeah, so 2 thoughts on that. First off, the scenario you described, that's exactly how it works, right? Copy, paste, enter, answer, done, right? And you don't have to understand how to use a system. You don't have to understand, how to write SQL queries or the user experience of a complex workflow that, a system like Salesforce or Genesis might offer to you.
Yeah.
If you can talk or type, you can get to the answers you want. And so
let me interrupt you. Let's not gloss over what you just said. Talk or type. Are you telling I could even talk to your data using like a microphone?
Yep. Press a button, use the words. Hey, I want to understand what my top 7 products are, and I want to know what average customer sentiment is for those. Actually, create a table that shows me top 7 products, average handle time, issue types, and average customer sentiment scores.
That's
cool. You get a table showing your top 7 products with, all of that data. Then you say, you know what? I want to drill down a little bit more. Hey, provide the conversation IDs for, issues with the iPhone 17 related to Bluetooth. Great. Here are the, 35, conversation IDs related to that specific filter that you just applied. So when you talk about like launching a new product and really solving your customer issues, no one wants to fumble through a complex UI, right? To mouse and button click building different charts and resizing things. You just want an answer. So why not talk to it?
I think that's cool.
There's another part, Mark, that I think is kind of interesting of what you shared. Hey, there are all these different stakeholders, right, that want access to the data, and they want different types of data.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I believe is that these other users are going to start to uncover the gold mine, right, within customer data in ways that the company has never even thought about today. And so that's the part that I am particularly excited about is, hey, this isn't just customer service data. It's not about average handle time or wait time. There is product feedback data, right? Hey, how can we actually improve our product? There's competitive analysis data. I had a frustrating conversation yesterday with Lyft because of an issue in their platform, right? And I was like, hey, because of this issue, right? I needed to go someplace. I was forced to use your competitor, Uber. And here's why, right? That conversation that Lyft has, it's lost, right? They're never going to know that existed. But if they were using our platform, they would. It's just, hey, show me all the different times our customers referenced our competitor. What did they have to say? Give me an executive summary of the three sort of categories of feedback our customers shared about our competitors. What's going well, right? You can uncover that with our system
Interesting.
in ways that you never could have before.
That's cool. How hard is this from the standpoint of preparation? I'm curious about the kind of the under the hood, behind the scenes, whatever metaphor you want to use on this platform. And my frame of reference, Justin, is coming from some of the older legacy competitive offerings that are out there, the older stuff that, without exaggeration, before you can get a meaningful anything out of them, it could take literally weeks and weeks to initially configure these systems and to optimize the.
Mark, I think weeks. You're being kind there. Yeah, months, many months.
It could be the better part of the first whole contract term, and it's just getting set up.
Yep.
And the reality is, people I don't think have patience for that anymore. I think that, I remember, and then once it's even set up, maintaining it is sort of like this black hole of going in there and kind of tweaking the rules and making sure that things get bucketed the right way all the time. And they never do. They never get them quite right. But even it's full-time jobs for multiple people in a company. Tell me about it with you. Is it the same way? Is it more? Is it less? What's the deal?
Well, just to explain a little further kind of what you're describing, one of our current clients, once again, we work with big clients, right? This is a very large medical device manufacturer. And I was on with their contact center leader recently talking through our new product. And they have just initiated a new reporting project. They use Salesforce. Their reporting project is expected to take 12 months. They're going to have 8 reporting experts focused on this project. And basically what they had said is, hey, we already ran this project 3 years ago, right? That team created all of these dashboards, and the dashboards aren't what we need. And we actually don't really trust the data, right? And we're launching this new project. This is the amount of time it's going to take, the complexity involved. It's going to take 12 months in order for us to hopefully, right, round 2, get to the end result that we really want.
Interesting.
And, in that end result, and the way that works in some of these larger companies is you have your contact center team. There are maybe a couple of people that have a Tableau or Power BI certification, right? So they had to go through a class to learn how to use the software. And so then the business operator will send them an email and say, hey, I want you to pull this new report. Here's some of the filters. When can you have this, right? Mm-hmm. 6 hours later, right, that team responds and says, hey, got your message. We'll put this into our backlog, should have it to you in the next 2 days, right? They go spend half a day writing SQL queries, trying to figure out how to pull this report. They drop it into an Excel file or a PowerPoint, right? And you get a skewed image of a chart, and then they email it back to you, right? And then you have some follow-up questions. And so it's like, wow, okay, that took 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5 days just for us to get an answer to what seems like it should be a simple question.
Yeah.
So you're right in terms of onboarding and maintenance. There's a lot, right, that people are really invested in to get that level of service. In terms of what it takes for us to set up our process, we've done all the work on the back end. We can go live with new clients on this in about half a day of work. There's no ongoing maintenance required. Now, one of the things that's important that we've learned through the process is we have prompts, right? And these prompts are what you are using to gain insights into your conversation details. And we expose those prompts to our clients. So our clients can go in and they can create their custom prompts. and they can edit existing prompts. So in terms of kind of ongoing maintenance, it's fairly lightweight, and it's the type of work that anybody who can talk or type can do. You don't need training. There are no certifications required in order to, use our services.
So you don't need to be a programmer or a Python guy or a SQL person or Tableau. You could just be a business guy and get something out of this.
If you can talk or type, you can get access to all of the data that you need from your business within the unstructured transcripts that your customers are sharing with you.
That's
Yes.
cool. That's important.
It's mind-blowing, and we're so fortunate to be kind of in this age of AI, even though I think we are incredibly early in the cycle.
Yep.
Right? It opens up the opportunity to really accelerate what we can deliver.
Let me change gears with you for a minute. You were talking a few minutes ago about an airline example. You talked about working with some other large companies recently. What's the time? Well, who's your ideal customer? In other words, if you said, boy, such and such a guy at a company or such and such a company would be, perfect for this. What does perfect look like? Help me understand who's your right guy and frankly, who's your wrong guy to talk to.
Quite frankly, it's probably not the type of company or even the type of industry that we're looking for right now. Today, we span a large variety of different industries. I would say because of sales cycle complexity and time, we're probably not interested in healthcare or government. If you're not in that industry, you're in the right industry, right? To implement what we have. Right now, what we're looking for is we're really looking for innovators and early adopters. So some companies are really uncomfortable with that, right? They don't want to be first. They want a mature product with all of the bells and whistles. And right now, and really kind of, from this launch through the end of the year, we're looking for the early adopters, the folks that are excited about being first. We're looking for companies that are embracing AI. Many of the companies we talk to are not. They're kind of rejecting AI, or they're very, tepid about implementing AI. And I guess what I would say to those companies are, hey, let's work together, but in a year, whenever your kind of mindset changes about how AI can help improve your business. But the folks that are embracing it, they like to move fast, they like to be first, they're already comfortable with AI. Those are the types of people that we're in a position to really help and really accelerate their business.
Tell me if you can. I'm sure it varies company to company, case by case. Give us a sense on how you kind of your typical investment. What do people spend to get into business with you? Is this a big money bet? Is this a moderate money bet? How would you frame it?
So our pricing model really involves a subscription component and then a usage component, right? And so the usage component is variable. And just as an example, right, we might work with a company that says, hey, we want 7 different insights into our data. We want to understand agent performance. We want to understand product feedback, as examples. Where we might have other companies that say, hey, we want 20 different insights into our data. We're interested in fraud detection. We're interested in policy and compliance. And so that's where the usage variability would change. But hey, Mark, like super high level, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds.
Oh, so this is not a big bet.
This is not a big bet.
For most companies.
This is the return on investment, the value that you're getting from implementing a solution like ours or our solution is remarkable.
That's cool.
The risk is low, the value is super high.
I think that's so unique. I mean, I remember those same legacy platforms I was mentioning before, in addition to being hard to set up, are very expensive. We're talking about, in my opinion, at least, platforms that are well into the mid to upper mid 6 figures. We're talking $500,000, $750,000, $1 million and up.
That's not what we're bringing to market. Now, once again, right, it depends on the volume. And so we certainly have some of our clients that would, utilize our services across their entire business. But no, you can expect a very low starting price point.
One of the things that is on, I know on my mind, and I'm sure it might be on the people's minds who are listening in also, is there a way people can see this in action and kind of try it out, like a try before they buy kind of setup? Tell me what that's like.
Yep, there is. So one of the things that we'll do is we'll actually spin up a demo instance of our platform, and we will fill it with synthetic data that's related to your company. So there's no integration. There are no data privacy, InfoSec items that need to be covered. We can hand over, there's no authentication that's required either, just to basically kick the tires on the product. So the way that process works is you get in touch with us, send us an email, contact us through our website, let us know that you're interested. And yeah, we need 15 minutes to spin up a demo instance for you.
That's it.
That's it.
Why would anybody?
It's pretty special.
I mean, again, I remember a story. I was talking with an old client of mine who is in the new home building business.
Okay.
And I remember she was looking at some of the older legacy platforms in your space. And this goes back a couple of years ago. And she was interviewing 3 or 4 prospective suppliers to pick one. She's doing sort of like a verbal RFP. And she asked everybody but one, how long do you need to let me try? How much ramp time do you need to let me get into this thing to try it? And Justin, without exaggerating, most people said a couple weeks, a few weeks, a month, more than a month, because they really want to get in there and, build out the whole thing, and it was going to be entirely customized for her. And the company who won her business said, I could do it for you today. All right. Why don't we set up a call at 4:00 and I'll give you your password. You can get in and try it. Right. And she was complete. You could see her jaw hit the floor. Right? And I think that I hear you saying something very similar, that you can let people try this thing in no time flat for free.
Mark, have you ever seen the TV show Silicon Valley? It was out 10 years ago.
It's a favorite.
Yeah, same, right? But there's this scene where you've got the engineer, right, who doesn't understand sales and what the customers really need. And he's talking to the sales leader. And the sales leader is saying, I have the best sales team. They're the best. And so you have the product person saying, well, if you have the best, can't we just create the more complex features and your team is good enough to sell them? And then, the head of sales is like, no, it's got to be the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You have to make it as easy as possible to get in the customer's hands. And that's what our team can do well. And so anyways, it is interesting that the different perspective there between maybe engineering and sales. And yeah, you've got to make things easy for people to implement and use.
Can you give my friends and me just 2 seconds worth of advice? In other words, if you're looking at everything you know now about the space that you're in, and you said, boy, if you were on the buyer side of that conversation or the prospective buyer side of that conversation, and you were looking into your world from the outside in, what advice would you give to that outside person when they're considering this type of solution? Is it about, make sure you look into it a certain way, make sure you try a certain way, make sure you fill in the blank, whatever I don't know what the blank is that you want to fill in, but what 2 seconds worth of advice can you give to somebody off the top of your head that says, boy, if you do this, you'll be better off?
Yeah, I think my 2 are, hey, this is a solved problem now. Right? If you're still dancing around pivot tables and Excel spreadsheets, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
I think that's a piece of advice. The other one I would say, if it's not easy, if you can't type to your data or talk to your data, then you're also doing it wrong. There's an easy path. You might have to search for it, but keep in mind, if it doesn't feel easy, keep searching.
Yep.
That's what I would suggest.
Fascinating. So you're able to really get my head around this. So you're able to take all of this unstructured data. It doesn't matter if it's a call transcript, a chat transcript, even a phone recording, a call recording, whatever it might be, load it into your platform from wherever it resides today.
That's right.
Mine it for all the key learnings with like no time flat kind of turnaround.
How many baggage-related issues have we had in the past 30 days at airports in Germany? Enter. Answer.
So to me, the magic here is two things. One, getting that data to be processed by the AI on the back end, but then also the ability to expose a front end to a user where you could just literally talk to it, right? And
Yes.
ask a question, get an answer back. You don't have to think about navigating cryptic user interfaces and clicking through charts and drilling down and all the things that we're kind of pre-accustomed to. It's just ask a question, get an answer.
Ask a question, get an answer. Create a chart, talk to the chart. Yes. Now keep in mind, hey, Mark, you're making this sound really simple, by the way. But our product team has been working on this product for the past 15 months. So there has been an incredible amount of engineering to go into understanding, how to ingest the data, how to structure the data in the right way, right? How to architect a very, very complex, suite of solutions to get to the end result of, oh, wait, you just click a microphone and ask the data what you want and hit enter and get the answer. So yeah, the net of, hey, this is easy and simple is what, of course, we wanted to get to, which we are, but it did take us quite a while to get to this place.
You know what they say, right? The hardest thing in technology is making it simple.
I think so too. I look at Apple's design, right? Apple has some of the simplest design that's out there. They also have some of the biggest, most expensive design teams, right?
Yes.
It takes a lot to make it easy.
So one last question comes to my mind. You've talked about the problem you've already solved around the analytics and the learning and the talking to your data, and that's a solved problem by you. Look to the future for a minute. Let's just kind of dare to dream. Where do you see going in the future? What's the next problem? What's the next horizon for where you are?
So we want to solve 3 problems, and we solved 2 of them. One is anyone can access the data. It's easy to put that data into a format that you can understand and make decisions. The third problem is there's so much data. When you want to create a change, where do you start? And so where our roadmap is really addressing problem number 3. And for us, that's going to be a few things. One, just imagine that today you run a contact center, and maybe once a week your team sends you a report. So you get an email, it's got a PowerPoint, you open it up, you read through things, you look at the charts, you have to kind of, piece the different components together. You understand what the trends were and how they're different. You have questions about it that you can't really answer. So that's kind of how that problem gets solved today. And by the way, it took someone on your team, 4 to 6 hours of labor to put that PowerPoint together for you. What we're working on is you can say, hey, click a button. I want my daily brief. I want to listen to a 5-minute podcast. So you're not at your desk. You're actually on the way to the office, or you're out for a walk, or whatever it is you do to prep in the morning, and your audio is explaining, hey, over the past week, here are 3 highlights. Here are the trends that are changing that you might want to pay attention to. Here's someone on your team that did a really great job. You might want to, say something nice to them. And that would be accompanied with an automated daily, weekly generated brief. Now, what you can also do, or in the future, this is something we plan to launch before the end of the year, is be able to curate that for whatever role you're interested in, right? So an agent, right, might have a different daily brief than a team lead, than a manager, than the contact center director, than your chief operating officer. So you can, through a series of toggles, really control, hey, how frequently you're getting the data, what's the format, but it's something that's easy to put together. And instead of taking, your team 6 hours, it's something that would take somebody, 3 minutes.
Very, very cool. So as we wrap up here, I have to believe that we could have sat here and talked for another hour. But, we're not going to have that time. So if friends listening in, either on the live session or back on one of the playback recordings, want to reach out to you, tell them and me the best way to get a hold of you. Is it just LinkedIn? Is there a better way to reach you? Tell me the best way to get a hold of Justin.
Yep, either one. Reach out via our website, CXConnectAI, or hit us up on LinkedIn.
Cool.
I think hopefully my name and our company name are tied to this, but you can find us on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Justin, thank you for hanging out here with my friends and me. It's good to have this conversation with you. Any last words that you want to share? They say, remember the peak end rule. People are going to remember the end, right? Give something that, if nothing else, you want. If they've forgotten the last 58 minutes of this show, but they remember one nugget, what's the one nugget you want them to remember?
Man, I think I want to give two. The two would be, data doesn't have to be hard. It's easy. We make it easy. If you want to make your data easy, reach out. We can give you a demo, talk to you about how. That's one. Number two, Marc, I think what you're doing here with your time and putting together CX Changemakers is great. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I hopefully it's been informative for the folks listening, and I look forward to those in the future I get to listen to.
Justin, thank you for hanging out here. It's always fun meeting guys and talking with guys like you who really get it. So thank you for this chat, and I'm looking forward to seeing where your business goes and continues to thrive and continues to kind of prove to the world that data doesn't have to be complicated and hard. I think that's an audacious statement to make, and one that you can live up to at the same time. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Marc. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks for hanging here, man. So friends, that was Justin Custer from CX Connect. He's one of the good guys out there, and I'm so thrilled that you're able to come spend that hour with us. We're going to wrap up the show here in just a second, because I know we're right at the hour here. Just as a quick reminder, that book that I mentioned before, and one or two of you guys have asked for copies of it. I can get as many copies as you want. Just shoot me a note or an email or a text or any kind of messaging through the platform here. If you want a copy of Marc Levy's book, I think it's one of the best books about CX that I've read in the last year, maybe more. And I'm able to give you anybody who wants a copy. So just feel free to ask and let me know where to send it, and I'll make sure it gets on its way to you. So with that, my friends, thank you for being on this journey with me, and let's stay in touch. Please tell your friends and your colleagues about CX Changemakers show. We'll have another episode coming up in a couple of weeks, and then let's just kind of keep the conversation going as we do. So that, my friends, stay well, and thank you for being on this journey with me. Take care now, guys. Bye-bye.